Welcome fellow wanderers, Rachel here with the Worrisome Wanderers, and today I've put together a list of some tips for how you can go about planning a sustainable trip. This is really important because according to a recent study, tourism accounts for nearly 8% of global carbon emissions, and that number is expected to rise. And so it's really important that we get started small, and I know that you guys are probably watching our videos thinking, I really can't influence the way that the hotel industry is operating, or I really can't change international policy. However, there are some things that you can do to start just in your day-to-day travel, and I hope that you guys will take these tips to heart. So here they are. First tip is to look for smaller trips that you can do maybe in like a day that are near you. I'm from northeastern Oklahoma in Bartlesville, and we're only about 3 hours from Branson, Missouri. So one of the small vacations my family took a couple of times was to go to Branson, and there's lots of attractions there, and we could have just as much fun there as we could at Disney World. And it not only cut costs, but it kept that money local, and it's more carbon efficient to do that. So since we're here in Lexington right now, a couple of day trips that you could do would be to Nashville or Cincinnati. There's lots of things to do in either of those locations. It's not very far, so you could travel a short distance to get there, and it just make a really nice small vacation for anyone. So my next tip for you guys is to bring a reusable water bottle when you're traveling. So I always have a reusable water bottle on me. This is just one of the many ones that I own. And I really like to take a reusable bottle with me because it not only cuts costs, but it also cuts plastic. So a lot of times when people travel, they're using one-time use plastic water bottles that they're buying or that hotels are giving out. And that's creating a lot of plastic waste, and it's really not good for our environment. So I recommend a bottle like this one, especially if you're going to an area that the water quality is a little bit questionable, because this one has a filter that goes in. It goes into the top here, and you can use it to filter out the particles that you don't want in your water, and it's just a really good option to take. And also remember, whenever you take a reusable water bottle on an airplane, to make sure that it's empty when you go through security, but there's lots of water fountains throughout the airport that you can fill it back up at. So my next tip for you guys is to support local restaurants and hotels. This is not only a tip for the economy because it does keep the money that you're spending into those local communities, but it also helps the environment because they have less carbon emissions. And it also is a nice way to get to know people. So when I traveled to Costa Rica this summer, we ate at a bunch of like family-owned restaurants, and it was a really cool experience because you got to know the people that were cooking your food, and that's a really cool thing to do. So I really encourage that. So my next tip for you guys is to, when local hotels aren't available, to try to use hotels that have sustainability initiatives. So Hilton just recently launched a big sustainability initiative, and they're not the only ones, but make sure that when you're going to these hotels, you're actually taking part in the sustainability initiatives. So actually hang up your towels so that you can reuse them instead of asking them to wash them every day. You can also look for hotels that are LEED certified. LEED certification is just an organization that makes sure that the buildings you're in are environmentally friendly. So my next tip for you guys is to walk, bike, or use public transportation whenever possible. This may seem inconvenient, but it will allow you to cut costs and carbon emissions. And you'll get to see different parts of the city, or even parts that you wouldn't have gotten to see when you were just driving a car that you rented. The next tip is to recycle whenever possible. This may seem like it goes without saying, especially when we're talking about being more environmentally friendly, but whenever possible, look for recycling bins and use them. This reduces plastic waste, and it keeps that plastic from ending up in the oceans, where it can be harmful for other animals. So my next tip is in regards to planning the activities when you're on your trip. So if you decide to take part in any outdoor activities or any activities that tout local wildlife, you should make sure that you're staying on the path and you're not disturbing any more habitat than needed. And if you're going to these places that are advertising exotic animals, make sure that they're operating in an ethical way. This reduces the impact that we're having on the local flora, fauna, and wildlife. And as tempting as it may be when you go to maybe the beach or anywhere else, try not to take rocks or shells or sand because those are important parts of the habitat. I can't stress this tip enough. Conserve water. So here in the US, it's not uncommon to take hour-long showers and to throw out water bottles that are half full type of thing, but in other countries that's almost completely unheard of. So whenever you go somewhere and they tell you like restrict your showers to 15 minutes, I really hope that you guys will participate in that, and it will help save water, especially if you're going to an area that is dry. So if you're going to the desert, you really shouldn't be wasting the water because that's a precious resource. So my next tip is to check out your destination before you go. Earlier in one of my other vlogs, I was talking to somebody at the airport and she said that she was surprised at the lack of recycling bins at her resort in Arizona versus the recycling bins in Chicago. And I really think that this is important. Whenever you're looking at traveling, you really should maybe like research the destinations that you're going to so that you're going to places that are sustainable so that you're not promoting places that aren't sustainable. So there's like a whole bunch of countries that are really environmentally friendly. I know Costa Rica is one of those, and you might look at going there versus countries that aren't. This gives an initiative for the other governments that are looking at this. They're saying these countries are more environmentally friendly and they're the ones that are getting more tourism. So maybe we should implement some of these environmentally friendly policies. So my last tip is to check out ecotourism. I know we sound like a broken record on this, but it really is a really cool experience. Whether it's waking up to the sound of monkeys or finding poisonous tree frogs outside your room, all of those things just make for a really memorable experience, and you'll enjoy it every second of it, even if you have to give up your electronics for a week. Ecotourism is life-changing, and I really would highly recommend it. But I know that it's not possible for all travel settings. So like, if you're going for a business trip, it may not be the best option, but if you're going on a family vacation, I would highly recommend ecotourism. This list is by no means a complete list of ways to be more eco-friendly when traveling. They're just kind of my top recommendations. There's so many more things that you can do whenever you're traveling. And just remember that every movement starts small and your impact really does make a difference. Happy travels!